So this was something that I think is really important that we have to embrace. And one of the reasons why Mfon and I wanted to do this presentation was because millennials, the influx of millennials, have really changed the way that we should approach the classroom. And I want to emphasize should. And if you want to remember what a millennial is, they are, I can't remember when they were born, but most of us have a number in our class. There's a fun fact at the bottom of this slide which says that the average millennial spends 18 hours per day consuming social media. So there's a lot that we have to compete with when we're trying to teach them a concept. So how do we get through to a population that's inundated with all of this other information around them? So what we decided to do was instead of beating them, let's join them. And we started using some of the tools that they use in their class, in their social life, to incorporate that in class. And it's really led to a very positive experience for both of us. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that I started to do several years back was incorporate Twitter. I want to see a show of hands. How many people in the audience have a Twitter account? Yeah, see a couple of hands. And I'm going to assume that the majority of us don't. I just saw about 3 or 4 hands go up, but I'm going to assume that the majority of us don't. And so if you don't, go ahead and sign up after this. Mfon can help you sign up for one. But I started incorporating Twitter into my classroom, and I'm going to share with you my Twitter story. It's a pretty good one. So let's go to the next slide. So I love TV. As I told you in my introduction, I'm a filmmaker. So I'm always watching films. I'm always watching TV. I just love consuming content that way. I'm a visual learner and an audio learner. So I find myself watching a lot. And so one of the things that I use in my managerial accounting class and my forensic accounting class is that reality TV show, The Profit. Does anybody in the audience watch The Profit on CNBC? Okay, didn't see any hands, so if you don't watch it, it's a great show. And as I have on this slide, the key to a good class lecture is always a good story. And The Profit has great business stories. So let's go to the next slide, please. So one day, one of my favorite episodes, this was probably 3 years ago, there was an episode that focused on the key lime pie baking company. And I was watching this, and that was actually the first time I've ever heard of The Profit. And again, it's a CNBC show, so it comes on, it used to come on Tuesday nights, I'm not sure, and it starts off again in June, but I don't know if it's going to be on Tuesday night again. But anyhow, Marcus Lemonis is the host of the show, and what he does is he invests in failing businesses to try to revive them, and he always buys a share of the company. And so Key Lime Pie Company is a pastry baking company that's located in Key Lime, Florida. And they wrote into Marcus to get some help. And so I watched this episode, and as I was watching the episode, I was like, this would make a fantastic case to do in class. And so I thought, wow, I wonder, I just had all these accounting questions as I was watching. So I said to myself, I wonder if Marcus Lemonis is on Twitter. So I went to Twitter, and I did a search for his name, and I found that he was on Twitter. So let's go to the next slide. And so as I was watching, what you see there is my just a screenshot of my Twitter feed. And so if you look at the bottom, we're going to go to the bottom and go up, where I say, and this is 2014, so it's 3 years ago, I say revenue, profit, margins, product costs, all discussed in the profit, perfect for MBA students. And so we had this conversation, and he joined in, and I was like, wow, I wonder if it's really him. So what you see is him answering a couple questions that I had posed. And so all of his responses and all my questions are not in this screenshot. But one of the questions that I had asked him was, did the customer account for manufacturing overhead in their product costs, or were they just considering their product costs, materials, and labor? And so you see in that second slide, that second image where he says no for pure product. And so what he was asking about, or what he was telling me, was that the company only accounted for materials and their product costs. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. You know, you're missing labor maybe I'll come and speak to your class one day. So he opened the door, I ran through it. And this all started through Twitter. I mean, this is a Twitter conversation with a multi-millionaire host of a show on CNBC. So let's go to the next slide. So after months of tweets, because we would go back and forth, I sent him a tweet at the end of the summer, and I asked him if he was still available to come to DePaul. And so he sent me an email with his, he sent me a direct message on Twitter with his assistant's email and said, contact my assistant, get on my schedule. And I was like, done, definitely. I'm going to give you all the information because I would love to have you back to Paul. So I waited months and months and went back and forth over email with his assistant trying to get on his schedule. And she said, you know, he's very busy between running all his businesses, between taping the show. You know, we'll see if he has time. Let's go to the next slide. So after months and months of waiting, I got a phone call. I got a phone call on a Friday in the winter. And it said, it was his assistant, and she said, hi, Kelly. Marcus can come to campus on Monday at 6 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, Monday at 6 o'clock. You do know we're an urban campus. Trying to find a space over the weekend to host an event is not easy. And she said, oh, and by the way, I need you to have at least 100 students that show up. So what do you think I did? Of course, I was panicked because it's Friday afternoon at 4, and I have to pull this together Monday at 6. So over the weekend, I contacted everybody I knew, but I took to Twitter. I took to Twitter to get to those 100 students. Let's go to the next slide. This here is just a couple of questions. These are 10 discussions and questions that I made based off of that episode that I had my students do. Because what we did is we watched the episode in class, and we went through these questions, these discussion questions about the episode. So that's just a screenshot of the questions that I used that go with that specific episode. Go to the next slide, Dave. So what you see here is me preparing for Monday. So I spent the weekend tweeting and emailing people and letting them know CNBC Marcus Lemonis is coming to DePaul on Monday. And so as you see in my tweet at the bottom, it says, at DePaul U, student RSVPs rolling in for Monday night with at Marcus Lemonis. We use the profiting class. They are excited. And he wrote back at Kelly Arto at DePaul U, looking forward to it. And let's go to the next slide. So, let's go back in time. Monday, January 26th arrives. And so, yes, I finally secured a great room. And the question was, did I have enough students to show up? So, go to the next slide. This is his picture from the room. Standing room only. Not only did students come, students brought their mothers, their fathers, their grandparents, because I took to Twitter to build up this audience. So Marcus Lemonis' assistant said, Marcus will only stay for 30 minutes, and we can do no recording, no video, and he will answer just a few questions. And Marcus walked into that room, and he saw all of those students so excited to see him. He ended up staying for 2.5 hours, took tons of questions, did all of these examples, pulling people from the audience and asking them, tell me your business idea. And he really went through what he did on the show with the students on the spot. It was amazing. Let's go to the next slide. There's just a couple more pictures from the events. There's Marcus Lemonis there in the classroom that I reserved. And he's talking about expenses going down, revenues going up. I mean, he's there teaching. And I wanted you to know, this is Chicago in January. There was snow on the ground. It had actually snowed. It was snowing that night. All of those students came. Let's go to the next slide. That's Marcus Lemonis with my little girl. That's Vivian. I brought them to the session because they watched The Prophet with me. I have an 11-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and so they were there in the audience watching him speak because they had seen him on television. Let's go to the next slide. What I want you to notice about this slide, this picture, is I want you to look at the faces of the students. So look, you see him to the right, but look at their faces. Those are sheer smiles of enjoyed it, they loved it. Let's go to the next slide. And then this was a tweet that I found after the event, and it says, "Who said school is boring? Learning business. Watching at the Sweet Pete's episode that prompted CNBC DePaul, Kelly Harville, Mark Simone, CNBC TV Prime." So what happened is because we started tweeting, CNBC sent the whole class T-shirts. So the whole class that semester, or that quarter, I'm sorry, had T-shirts because CNBC followed us, and we had conversations with CNBC, and we've had conversations with other shows. So all this came from Twitter, from a Twitter conversation. This whole phenomenal event came from engaging over Twitter with a person that you would never think that you would know. So let's go to the next slide. And then it's me, Mark Simone, because, even as I tell this story, I still find it pretty unbelievable that it happened. I mean, I didn't know this man, but, it happened that way over Twitter. And so not only did I learn the power of Twitter, my students learned the power of Twitter, of how you can connect with people that you might not ever be connected with. But if you have an interesting enough question, maybe they just might respond and show up in your classroom. Let's go to the next slide. And then what you see there is I had all of my students write handwritten notes to Mark Simone, and then I wrote one, and you see mine on the top. It says, "Mark, miss you at DePaul. We hope you will visit again. Enjoy the cards." And so students just wrote heartfelt cards about how appreciative they were for him to come, and that really meant a lot to him. So fast forward 3 years later. 3 years later, there's a new show that he's hosting called The Partner. And so what he's doing is he's looking for a person to partner with him on all the businesses that he's invested in, that he invested in on the show. So CNBC was looking for a place to shoot their pilot episode. And who do you think they called? When they were looking for people, first of all, location to shoot, and young people to come to the pilot episode, they called me. They reached out to me, and I sent 5 students over to the taping of the pilot, to the taping of the partner, for them to do it. They were amazed. So this was 3 years later. So again, I still carry this Twitter story with my students so they can understand the value of not only Twitter, but having a positive social media profile. Let's go to the next slide. So just a couple tips about being Twitter TV savvy. The way I use it in terms of class participation is I use student Twitter feeds towards class participation. Twitter challenges. I encourage this class to engage other followers in the discussion. So we wanted to see if we could connect with possibly other accounting students that were interested in the same topic that we were talking about. So we were trying to see if we could pull this conversation and make it even broader than DePaul, broader than Chicago, broader than Illinois, and even broader than the United States. So we were able to have a conversation. When you're trying to think about shows or any kind of other projects to incorporate in your class, I always try to look for 3 core theories in an entertaining and very unusual way. And so the profit was one of those things would be 3 core theories that they talked about in that episode that I wanted to bring into class. And some piece of advice, short burst TV segments can be viewed during transitions in class, and they always work. Let's go to the next slide. So I want to tell you something, just a caution. One of the things that I always do is I change my course frequently. Typically, each time I teach my course, I change it. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to become an instructor was the ability to be creative. And so I never teach the same course the same way. So my managerial course last quarter is never the same as it was this quarter. And so one of the ways that I keep it fresh is by incorporating a lot of reality TV or really hands-on projects. We hire chefs, partner with chefs in kitchens, and we bake cookies, and we start cookie businesses. And those are some of the things that I do in my class. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Here is just my Twitter profile, and this was from a few years ago, so I have a lot more followers now and more favorites, but I just wanted to show you that this is sort of how my profile is: accounting professor, filmmaker, entrepreneur, CrossFit fanatic, and lover of all things fraud. And so that's how that's my profile on Twitter. So if you don't have one, I strongly encourage you to, because I've gotten speaking engagements, I've found speakers in my class as opposed because of having a Twitter profile. Let's go to the next slide. So a couple tips for teaching with Twitter. Something to think about: Twitter can increase engagement. Your students have a computer in their pocket, and I'm not a no phone zone professor, so I believe that your phones should be out and we should learn how to use them professionally. So I am not a no phone zone professor. I do allow breaks for students to look at their phones if they need to, because I'm in an urban area and students have real lives. And so some of my classes are 3 hours. So telling a person that you can't look at your phone for 3 hours, and I know you have a 6-month-old at home, or I know that you're caring for a sick parent or a sick grandparent, is not realistic from my world. So it can increase class engagement. Twitter can be related to your class. We've engaged in Twitter conversations with Wall Street Journal journalists, with Bloomberg journalists in class before, and that's been super fun. And it could be a cost-effective way to enhance class because it's free. And there are a lot of people in the Twitter sphere, so I think that it's something to think about. And as my tip on this slide says, setting up a Twitter account, and I meant to say account, I'm sorry, is easy and fun. Just trust us. So go to the last slide. And then just some of my tips. Again, 5 ways educators use Twitter to create a personal brand. Part of my Twitter brand is fraud and teaching and innovative teaching. I like to call myself an educator evangelist. I'm an educator evangelist. That's one of the words that I came up with. It also helps educators and students, but really educators, learning to be concise and speaking in sound bites is very helpful. I think sometimes as faculty we can ramble. You might think I'm rambling now, but I'm really trying hard to speak in sound bites. And then it's a really neat way to bring, and I put that in quotes, bring people to class in a unique way. So you can go to the next slide. So this, where can you find good digital stories and good digital content? Some of the things that I've used in the past, we can go to the next slide here, is YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, TED Talks, and TED Ed. I want to caution you though, all YouTube content is not created equal. So make sure you have vetted it from beginning to end before you use it. Netflix has some really great stories, especially if you teach leadership and if you teach a forensic accounting class like I do. Netflix has some great documentaries if you ever teach a 3-hour class. And then Hulu, you can find Shark Tank on Hulu if you have a Hulu account. I use a lot of TED Talks. I just gave my first TEDx talk on whistleblowing. So if anybody's interested, I'm happy to send that out to you. I think it's going to come out early next week. And then I did a TED Ed lesson on how people rationalize fraud with the TED team. But the TED Ed website is really interesting because the website is ed.ted.com. And that's ed.ted.com. And it has 4-minute animations. And then oftentimes I just use those in class because I found that it's important to have some transition time and sort of to approach students in a different way to keep their interest up. So those are really good options for story because like my slide said earlier, a good lecture always starts from a good story. And there's a lot of cool stories around. And accounting numbers tell tons of stories. And what our goal is to just try to engage the whole student to make them want to be there and want to love this profession as much as it deserves to be loved. So let's go to the next slide. A couple of other things that I've used, like I mentioned Shark Tank. I also use Restaurant Startup. In Restaurant Startup, another CNBC program, they actually use budgeting. So what they do is they have a group that has a restaurant concept, and they have to do a pop-up shop, and they have to create a budget, and they do variance analysis about it because they watching a 5-minute Shark Tank pitch, and that's in my managerial accounting class. And again, I just try to introduce them to show them that accounting is all around us, and it's very important. And although someone might not be saying depreciation, and someone might not be saying gross margin, when they talk about margin, understand that this is accounting all around us. So I would like to use those Shark Tank pitches to show that. Okay, next slide. So this is our transition point that goes into the next phase of our presentation. And I am going to turn this over to you, my co-presenter. I will hope that you can answer any questions because it is getting loud where I am, and I don't want the background noise to be too loud. But I hope that you all found something interesting. My email is at the end of the slide in the presentation, so if there's anything I've said, if you want any resources, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you whatever I have. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to mute my phone so you won't get any feedback, okay?
Great. Thank you so much. Can I turn her speaker off? And I like what she mentioned about telling a story. So I'm going to tell a story which she didn't mention. And I like to walk around. So if I'm moving around, I like to walk around a lot. She didn't mention how I met her and how we connected. Now, if you ask her, she may joke with you and say, we met online. Not that way. How did we meet? We met through Twitter. So I followed Kelly on Twitter. It was a summer day. I was leaving a conference at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I just, as we normally do, we get on our cell phones and we check our social media. I saw she made a tweet. And I tweeted back something about the conference, and then to my surprise, she tweeted me back. And she said, wow, that's a great conference. It's on online learning. I just gave a presentation. She said, that's a great conference. She started asking me questions about the conference, and I boldly told her, I said, hey, it's a great conference. Let's collaborate on a presentation. 2 years later, I'm here today, collaborating on a presentation. So that's some of the power of social media. And I think this is the spirit of what we mean when we talk about access. So many times we think about access with students as just office hours, maybe phone calls, emails. But I challenge everyone to think that it's more than that. That it's social media. So it's Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. So in order to connect with students where they are. But let me ask this question. Who uses social media? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, pretty much everybody. Who uses social media in the classroom? How do you use social media in the classroom?
I have a different Twitter account for all of my classes, so I can really tailor, I just, ACC 21-23 section, whatever, I reserve dozens of names, so I tweet different things regularly about what's going on in class, a new topic that comes up. I teach accounting and economics and statistics, so depending on what it is, but I can tailor that. And it does give you a way to communicate. I'm constantly retweeting other topics that I find, something else I see. And I also, my school administrators, all follow me and keep up with it, so other faculty and other school administrators get to see what's going on and help sort of jump into some communication. And it just creates a much broader environment for what we're doing on campus. And students seem to enjoy that. At least there's a little more communication going on that way.
Right, so there's that connection. That's great. That's great. Anyone else?
I just had a question. I'm not a Twitter user, but is this a zone that is private to the students in your class, or can anybody leap in there?
Well, I think that is personal preference. So I think that's personal preference.
Well, maybe can somebody other than your students?
Yes, anyone can jump in there. Okay. I put on my syllabus every semester what my Twitter feed is for that class.
Yeah.
And yet gives those students access to find it. We talk about it the first day of the class, and anybody can follow it that wants to. And of course, I use the same prefix the next semester because section number 51 one semester is a different class next semester. So I still have students from prior classes that may still be following it or whatever, and you get some good feedback. I've had some students who have transferred from our school to a university that will still, respond or post things or retweet stuff that we do in class and remind other students, hey, yeah, I remember when we did that, Mr. Baker, that project was terrible, but now I thank you for making me do it, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
That's great.
It does create a good little network.
It does. And on that note, I want to move to this part about data. So for our students, we're able to give them more access to us, and we have greater access to them. But when we think about data, just as you mentioned, sir, you're able to collect data on users. So you have feedback from your students. This is powerful. So if you think about maybe you're going to a review or you're discussing what's going on in your class, you actually have your own source of data. So you can show this feedback to students. You can show how many views that you received on a YouTube video that you posted. So you have your own data outside of your learning management system.
Yeah, that's really what it started for me was my students don't respond to email, they don't respond to Canvas or Blackboard, whatever we're using. I was looking for some other way. Again, group texting gets complicated with multiple students depending on your carrier. So Twitter was just a way to do it, and they respond to it and follow it way easier than they do anything else.
That's perfect.
So even if we have to, miss class for a reason, right? That's my method to communicate with them immediately, and they all get, or the majority of them, not everyone, obviously, the majority of them.
Exactly. That's the perfect point. Thank you for sharing that. Did you have? Okay. So what I wanted to do now is really talk about how I got into using social media. Now, it starts with Blackboard Collaborate. Can I just see a show of hands who's used Blackboard Learning Management System? Okay, great. Now, can I see another show of hands? Who's used Blackboard Collaborate? Okay, great. Now, I know they have a new Ultra. This was some years ago. And really, the story unfolds here, this place, Shred 415. I know you're wondering, why is he showing this place, Shred 415? This is where I go to work out. And you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with the camera? Right? So I can go to work out here. And if you see this bare-chested gentleman right there, his name is Mark Byer. He's actually one of the trainers at this place called Shred 415 in Chicago, where I work out. Now, why is this story so interesting? It gets better. Well, Mark Byer makes a nutrition bar called Mark Bar. Now, they sell these at Shred 415 Whole Foods. They sell them locally in the Chicago area, right? So, one day after working out with Mark, it was burning. I wanted to know how he got started with this Mark Bar. So we had some locker room conversations, some clean locker room conversations. And I asked him, I said, Mark, how did you get into it? And he told me it was an amazing story from Ohio. Did his undergrad in accounting, worked for an accounting firm, wound up moving to California, going to culinary school, starting a culinary business, ultimately coming up with the idea for this Mark Bar. While in California, he also met his wife, who's a registered nurse. They moved back to Chicago. I said, wow, this is great. I would love to share this story with my students. Well, the only challenge is, and I'm pretty sure you've encountered this with guest speakers, Mark, he's a family man, he's got a family, he's got kids, he's working, he's very busy. So this is where I go to Blackboard Collaborate. I said, that's not a problem. We can set a time and a date. I'll send him that Collaborate meeting request. He'll sign in. No problem. So guess what happened that day? The day and time comes, he's at home. Send him the link. I don't know, has anybody used that link for Blackboard Collaborate before? I see some smiles. So I sent him that link. It took about 45 minutes for him to actually get that link to work to come into the meeting, which was fine. He was a good sport. It was great. Now, he told an amazing story. I mean, he gave his all for about an hour to all of the students, really just pouring out, explaining his whole journey, his business, going into detail, because he knew we were dealing with finance, we were dealing with accounting. Now, we get to the end of his presentation. Guess what Mfon forgot to do?
Record.
Press record. So a whole hour, actually an hour and 45 minutes. 45 minutes to get this set up. Another hour of him telling his story. And I mean, I was there cringing because I had to tell him I didn't record it. And needless to say, we didn't meet again for to come back for the class visit. However, I learned something. That challenge taught me something. So I had to look for a better way than collaborate. Now, I love Blackboard. If I had to choose learning management systems, I'd always choose Blackboard. I love Collaborate. It's a great tool. But in that instance, I had to find something else. And for me, that was actually YouTube. In order to record videos, have guest speakers. So that's my medium. So we talk about Kelly, she uses Twitter. Well, she uses a lot of medium, but her main one is Twitter. Mine is YouTube. And with using this YouTube, I come up with some tips. First is, what I learned from that incident with Blackboard Collaborate, is that it's important to implement a strategy. Have a clear vision of what it is that you're looking to accomplish with this medium. Right? If it's to have a guest speaker, okay, map out how you're actually going to do this and what challenges can arise with that. If it's to give a lecture, map that out as well. The other thing is quality content. So look to actually stay focused, right? Stay focused, and to give your best, especially if it's a video. It's not good to have things, people floating in the background or items. Try to make it look as professional as possible. The other is create a positive atmosphere. So I always try to stay positive. If anyone's watching my videos, I'm always having something good to say. I try to create a really positive tone or atmosphere in the videos. And what I've put together with my YouTube, I actually have 3 YouTube channels. So I have one YouTube channel for accounting, and the strategy behind that, in the broad sense, for every accounting course that I teach, I create a playlist. And what this does, creates an archive. And the students, if I'm teaching financial accounting, students from my current course can actually go back and look at videos from the prior course. So it gives a resource. So I have a combination of lectures, guest speakers, videos, where students can go and actually view them and watch them over and over again. So I do the same thing for my finance channel, for my finance courses. If you can see down here, I've got a interview from an attorney who came in to talk to the students. I set up an extra credit project where they actually wrote questions, they emailed them to me, I emailed them to my guest speaker, and on the date, came to my office, we recorded him answering the questions for the students. They enjoyed that greatly because they were able to watch the video, which was posted in Blackboard under the announcements. They could watch it over and over again and hear the questions. Other item, this is a view of the playlist that I have for the various courses. And the other thing I want to keep in mind, it gives data. So every time you actually post a video, you can do it, as you mentioned, publicly or every time someone's viewing, it tracks the views. So you have your own source of data. And here is another, this is an actual video. And what I use a lot, I create my own content in PowerPoint. So I record PowerPoint videos. And what I do, I save them as an MP4 and upload them to YouTube, where the students can watch. So in this one, I describe the accounting equation. Again, one of the best practices, create a positive atmosphere, really be encouraging. That's my tip. So at this point, have any questions or discussion? Yes. They are typically video unless there's a guest speaker. Yes, I use YouTube as closed captioning. You may have to go back, so you can do it automatically, but you may have to go back and actually. What do I use to create my videos? Majority of the time, desktop computer. Right, and a webcam. So if I'm creating my own content, I typically use PowerPoint. I have been using something called Adobe Spark, which I can download as an MP4.
Did you mention?
Yes, so I use a webcam. So if I'm recording video, it's a desktop computer. Yes. A very, very good question. So you can actually, if you go into YouTube, you can have a live video, and then it will record it to YouTube, but it'll take you to what's called Hangouts on air live, and you can do Google Hangouts on air live, and you can actually do a screen share. So sometimes, if you go to my channel, you'll see that I'll put together problems in Excel, and I'll work the problems in Excel. That's a good question.
Did you mention the name of your channel?
It's Mfon, it's my name, Mfon Jacob Akpan. If you search, and helps accounting, Mfon Jacob Akpan finance, Mfon Jacob Akpan business. Let me try to, Kelly, that's told. Try to see if I can get Kelly back on. Kelly, can you? Kelly is gone.
Just a quick reminder, if you are earning CPE credits, if you would remember to check out, sign out, please. And I will collect any survey evaluations that you have.
Also on the slides, you'll have, I know there's a question about my YouTube channel, some on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, so all of that.
Thank you very much.
Place to keep our seats for students.
Okay.
What room is she in?
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. This is 304. I feel like we've hung out here all day.
You know, I know how that is. Although sometimes it's good, I know where the room is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
of
I
our
will.
previous ones.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Also, in a couple of earlier sessions, I signed in but didn't sign out.
Okay,
The table.
okay, if they've been corrected.
Okay, thanks.
You're the one with a Twitter account.
Yes.
You have separate ones for each of your classes. Why?
Just that way I can, well, because I teach different topics, whether it's accounting or economics or finance. I mean, I teach accounting, economics, statistics, and international business, so I'm communicating different things to each of those. So that's really, and then I really started looking for a way to communicate, like, immediate classes, like, we're going to cancel class today, or don't forget this exam coming up. So I was looking for something that was very specific for
Collecting all the
Amazing.
surveys. I got a bunch of them.
That's great. I'm doing the same thing. I've got to put mine to that.
professor that's just, I encourage all my students to do very general students.
So other than when you have to cancel class or something like that, specific class communication, how often do you is it posted?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Once a week and every month.
Thank you very
Only a
much.
couple times a week.
Just about
Random articles I read, something I read in the news, I tweet it out, something that's applicable to what we talk about in class, some current event that sort of hopefully brings up an issue. I retweet from other professors that I've seen somewhere and something somebody else will post. So I constantly, when I see something like that, I retweet it to that particular class, or just in general to, that's my biggest
I just
problem.
created an account while we were sitting here.
Okay. It actually, they students enjoy it. It gets hard doing all the accounts. I really wish somebody would, but I don't know any way to do how I use it other than I can't figure it out. Because I do use it for multiple things.
Yeah.
You don't have good group messaging capacity any other way without email. Because I do that, the students just they don't, and they tend to like Twitter more. And it is easy, it's pretty easy, on our phones today, kind of, reading, just checking it, and I just feeding news, and I see it pop up, I tweet it out. And I probably do more of it in my economics classes than I do accounting, but I use the same thing. Oh, you're welcome, you're welcome.
Is that for me? No. No, that's a different one. Okay. That's an old one. Yeah, they haven't brought the new one. We figured the last one.